Yep.
What is up?
What's happening, dude?
Ooh, so much, man. It's crazy. Crazy, crazy.
I feel you.
Um,
I feel the same way.
a lot of things moving. All right, guys. Well, welcome to Roofer to Roofer. So you got Scott, who is the owner of Rainstoppers Roofing, as well as Small Town Roofer, the consulting firm, and then myself, AJ, co-founder, CEO of ProLine. So you got both roofing business owner here, and then you got me. I worked in my co-founder's business doing marketing, but also, of course, I'm running ProLine, so I'm on the tech side. So we got kind of everything covered between the two of us. And so please do let us know what your questions are for us. There's a Q&A section down here at the bottom of Zoom. If you click on that Q&A, you can type in your questions and we would love to talk about what you guys would like to talk about. So we're here to help you. So give us your questions. We focus more on the roofing business in general. You can also ask questions about ProLine, but we try to stay, just general roofing business if we can. So put that in the Q&A. While we're waiting on any questions from you guys, we're going to go ahead and start with our own questions that we have queued up. So we'll do one of ours, and then once we see some questions from you guys, we'll switch to those. So again, if you have questions, we would love to answer your questions and put that in the Q&A. All right, so we'll start with what is the correct way to ensure proper ventilation for a new roof that you're installing?
I mean, there's each manufacturer has like calculators, ventilation calculators, um, to kind of clarify how much of their product you need to install on the roof by the square feet. But you also got so where you have ventilation, you also have to have intake, so you have to check that as well. So like where I live, and majority of the country, we have overhangs on our roof systems, and we have a soffit, and we have a vented soffit to where that soffit can breathe. And we prefer ridge vents, just because that is going to be the highest point on the roof. Most of our houses around here are gable style houses, so there is plenty of continuous ridge to be able to put a ridge vent on. But it's the highest point, and so a natural draft comes in the soffit all the way up to the highest point and drafts out the top of the roof through the ridge vent. But yeah, using the manufacturer back calculators is really the best way to know that you have proper ventilation because you can technically have too much. So it's not about just venting as much as you possibly can because you can technically have too much ventilation. Um, so yeah, that's usually what we do.
Cool. Yeah, that's really good info. I feel like a lot of people might not know that they can just go to the manufacturer's calculator. Do they list those on their websites publicly generally, or is it?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, honestly, you just do a quick Google, just be like GAF. I mean, honestly, you just put roofing ventilation calculator. GAF has one that we use, um, but it's specific to their products. Because I'm sure GAF Snow Country Ridge Vent has a different rate of ventilation than Owens Corning Ridge Runner. Or what I don't even know what they call it. I can't remember what they call it, but you know what I mean. So it's specific to the product.
Right. Yeah. So it's not like you can just throw on whatever.
Correct.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Do you what's your fallback if there's not enough continuous ridge? What's your fallback for other ventilation? Do you do box vents? Is there any other
Usually box
preference?
vents. People in our area typically aren't pulling the trigger on power vents. We don't really particularly like them. Anything mechanical is honestly a fail point. A potential fail point if I don't know too many people that would argue the fact that usually the motors in a power vent usually don't last the same lifespan as the roof. So you're up there having to replace power vent motors when you could
Yeah.
literally just add, a few extra slant back box vents where needed, or I mean, you can do turbines. I think they're ugly, but you can do turbines. But yeah, there's tons of other options.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right. We got a question here from the attendees. So we got, and this is anonymous. Um, it's just a super, I'm not sure why it's anonymous. It's not that sensitive a question, but it's it's fair. Other than Google, where should we be spending our marketing dollars? What's the best ROI? I guess that's a solid question. What would you say right now, Scott? And by Google, I'm assuming they're referring to like pay per click, Google pay per click. But I guess you can also spend money on your Google My Business like
You can
through
spend it on Google
referral.
LSA. I mean,
Google
that's
SA, yeah.
I'd say any of those probably qualify for what they're talking about, or if not,
Yeah.
they're all good options. Um, the best return on investment, man, I honestly neighborhood outreach stuff. So
Mm.
canvassing, um, I don't like Facebook ads. I think that's the next place people are going to typically go. I just don't like them. I don't think that I don't have much success with them myself. I know I actually knew one guy that is doing a ton of business right now, and he told me 70% of his leads come from Facebook. I just don't see those results for me. Um, but I really like the local neighborhood outreach stuff. We do so well with it. Doing some light canvassing, getting our signs in the yards of the neighborhoods we're working on, getting door hangers on the neighbors. Just doing those things right. That's where we see a lot of return. Obviously, the investment's low. I don't know. It's also wintertime where I'm at, so there's not a lot. Like in the spring, we'll fire up on a few different fronts that make sense. But right now, that's about the only thing we're truly putting effort into.
You've talked a lot about radio in the past, which was
Mm.
surprisingly good for your market. Um, I mean, would you still say that's the case? Like, is that a good
We love the
investment?
radio. We killed them. But that's a weird one. I don't think
Every market.
that might be why we don't have success on Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's because of the lack of I don't know. I don't know what the term is, but people aren't as sophisticated. So maybe Facebook is less, radio is more. I'd say that it's not like that in most of the country, but yeah, I like the radio. I like brand awareness. So anything local outreach, radio, sponsoring. I sponsor everything. I sponsor the local gym. I sponsor every freaking soccer team in town. I sponsor every baseball team I can. Like every school. I've got no, they're in my truck still. I just got a bunch of plaques from all the schools that we sponsor because we always do like the highest promotion, 7 grand for 3 years. Like it's not like a huge investment. It's 3 freaking years for $7,000. And we're on the scorers tables at the gymnasium for all the basketball games. We're on the scoreboards at like football games. That's what I like brand awareness because we rank well on Google. All we need them to do is keep seeing our shit everywhere across town. And as soon as they search for roofer near me, we show up in the top two or three. They remember us 100% of the time.
Yeah.
That's not an
Yeah, I think
ROI thing. So just to be clear, that's not really answering that question exactly because it's not a lead source. It's more of a brand building campaign. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the answer, right? Brand building in general is is a really, and I think Facebook ads are generally the same way. I mean, I've seen some people are like generating somehow directly generating leads, but even that, what I've seen some companies have success with is more of using it for brand building.
yeah,
And so, because you can get some reach, but at the end of the day, like exposure is exposure. So if you can get cheaper exposure by sponsoring every local little league team and your local church, your local gym, like do that because that's the other thing too is that often those are way undervalued for the attention that you're getting in the community. Whereas like the one of the powers and the reason Facebook ads are so expensive is because you're able to broadcast at scale to like large populations of people, but that's not what you're generally trying to do with,
right.
a roofing business. You're trying to stay focused as possible. And so, yeah, a lot of those local things because a lot of people are not doing it because they're distracted by the fancy, Facebook ads or something like that.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Um, um, all right. That was a good question. You also are, I guess one other thing we can mention here is you have been playing with some lead aggregators as well. You've been playing with Angie. We've talked about that the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Um, are you still seeing success with Angie? Is that still?
It's, I think it's, I see Chad Beard is in the audience. Chad was the one that turned me on to Angie. Um, I think it's a great idea. I have seen some success. Right now, we're probably at like a break even point for our spend versus our, you know, what we've sold off of. We're breaking even. It's also I started it this in December. Um,
Yeah.
our weather the first week of December was in the 20s, so it's not like this hasn't been roofing weather for us at all. Um, so I'm excited to see what happens. We have gotten a lot of leads, just a lot of not real good ones. So I'm excited to see what happens in the spring. I actually was just talking to Chad. He's in one of my mastermind groups, and we were discussing something that crossed my plate yesterday about we all get these emails, right? Can you handle 10 more leads a week? That bullshit, right? Everybody gets those.
Yeah.
And basically you're just buying leads off of a lead generation company. I talked to a guy yesterday who's a roofer who I'm actually getting ready to do some business with. Um, and he literally told me that he is doing 20 to 25 leads a day off of this lead generation company, and he's selling at an 80% click. So then my first question to him was like, how much, what are you selling an average roof for? And my thought is this dude's selling roofs for like 300 bucks a square or something. You know what I mean? Like his entry level price is like 475, which is I'd say across the country, that's probably not far. Like that for where I'm at, that's actually good. Like I sell 425 starting out. So, yeah. So I hit the people up. He got me their contact info, and it's just another one of these ones that you hear. You tell them how much you spend. This one is based off of $75 per lead, and they do not book the appointment. They set up the you know the meeting between you and the customer. And I will be excited to report back in about 4 weeks and let you know what I do because I'm going to do a month-long test and see how it goes. But yeah, we'll see.
Can you have them use like the ProLine web form and like hook it up to a campaign? Is that what you're planning on
I
doing?
don't know. I haven't had my like kickoff call
Process
thing
yet?
yet, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I would
Yeah.
love to. That would be ideal.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, good question. So for everyone that's joined us since then, we've had quite a few other people jump in. So this is Roofer to Roofer. We're here to answer your questions about the roofing business. We've got Scott Tebay, owner of Stoppers Roofing, and then myself, co-founder, CEO of ProLine. And so we're here to answer any question that you might have. Please do ask us questions. We'd love to answer y'all's questions. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom, and you can just type in your question there, and we'll hit that. Otherwise, we'll just be answering our own questions. So, the next question I have here is should how should I handle negative reviews for my business on Google?
Yeah, you got to respond to them really fast. I think that a response to a negative review is more important than a response to a positive review. You got to respond to all of them. But the importance of nipping that in the butt as quickly as possible is so important. I don't think I see too many times too because I scout my competition. Like I'm always looking at my competitors' stuff and seeing like how they're performing on Google and different things. I'll look at their shitty reviews that they've got recently, and they literally talk trash back. Like they're literally, oh, this guy is a fool. He didn't. This isn't what happened. And it's like you can't say that. That's not how you respond to it. You got to respond to these things in a professional manner. You've got obviously you did something wrong. Now, did it warrant a 1-star review, there's a really good chance that it didn't. There's a lot of really shitty customers out there that just that maybe never even become a customer. We had one a long time ago. I got it removed. It wasn't even a customer. It was a competitor. I did get it removed. Um, but I put a really and I knew it was a damn competitor because it was his freaking name on the like he's an idiot. You know what I mean? Like dumbass. So, but I knew who it was. I knew exactly. Now, mind you, my text to him personally did not say what my Google response said, but my Google response was, "I'm so sorry, so and so. I really think that you got the wrong contractor. Uh, I've looked through all of our systems, and you do not exist in any of our softwares as a potential customer of ours. I think you have the wrong profile." Um, then I text him and told him I was going to kick his freaking ass if he did it again. So, like there's two different responses, but the one you want the public to see needs to be professional. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's you got to take care of this quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I think the thing is, if you're in business long enough, you're going to get some negative reviews. It's just a matter of time. And I think it's um a lot of times when people are researching you, they're going to go filter exactly for that review. They're going to see that there's one-star review and they're going to immediately filter and see what that one-star review. I'm sure we've all done it.
I do it
Looking at
every
something.
time.
It could be a 5.0 average review score, but you're still going to want to see that one-star review, right? Well, I guess it would probably be like 4.9 at that point. But like you're going to want to see like what happened. And it's an opportunity because it's not that people, want what people want to see is they want to see how does this company handle a situation where it went wrong? Like how do they handle someone that's unhappy? So if you can demonstrate that, if you can demonstrate this is the grace with which we handle someone that's not happy, then that's just going to win you more business. That's probably better to have that one-star review with a really good response than not, just in general.
Yeah,
Um, uh, so Melissa said here in the chat, we went 2 years all 5-star and got 2 3 stars this week. But thanks to ProLine automations, we got 5 a day now. So 1 3-star isn't that bad. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys. That was kind of my next question that I was gonna bring in was was how do we generate more 5-star reviews? Because I think that's the other side too is like if you don't have a lot of 5-star reviews or you're not consistently getting new 5-star reviews, then those lower star reviews can really hurt. But if you're consistently getting more 5-star reviews, then it can kind of balance out. So you can do the lower stars or the opportunity to show people how you handle that, and then you can still have the majority of like really positive reviews. So Scott, how are you guys generating the maximum number um of 5-star reviews right now?
honestly, we do all of it. My guys are lazy. They don't ask. They don't care. I don't incentivize them anymore because I was incentivizing them like $100 per review. They got excited for like 2 days, and then that candle burnout. You know how it is. Um, so we set up the campaign in ProLine. It is my number one favorite campaign in ProLine. If I've said this before, I would literally pay what I pay now for ProLine just for the Google review campaign because it is that valuable to my business. We got 5-star reviews yesterday. Um, no effort. No one did anything special. No one went out of their way to ask for them. But just because these people have been sitting in that campaign, the message finally triggered. 5 different people went and left a 5-star review. Um, because of that, 2 markets that I'm in, one market we've dominated forever, so it's not really relevant right now. I mean, we're just not even close. But the 2 newer markets that we were in last year, those pages are they're both less than 2 years old, but more like less than a year and a half old. One of them we're ranking number 2 on Google. One of them we're ranking number 1 on Google. And I credit that almost solely two things to Dima's SEO school and to ProLine's generation of reviews because we're consistently every week getting 5-star reviews. It's not like you don't want to get a flood of them. You don't want a flood of 20 of them in a week and then get none. Google will just start deleting those. You need that constant 3, 4, 6, 2. Like it's just got to be a constant, steady flow of reviews, and Google loves that. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, I think it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I think yeah, anyone watching that's on ProLine that you don't have that set up, that's something you definitely want to get set up. Um, like you're saying, there's services out there that will charge you $500 to $1,000 a month to just generate reviews for you. And the reality is those services, they're sending those emails and texts from some random phone number and from a generic email. So they're not even that effective. Whereas with ProLine, they're sending from the assigned sales reps phone and email. So it's coming from the person that the homeowner already knows, already has a relationship with, and it can be framed as a personal appeal to them and saying, hey, it would mean a ton to me as, your sales rep if you went and left a review and mentioned my name. And so, I mean, it's just so much more effective than some kind of generic automated request. But the thing with ProLine is like you can still automate it. It's just doesn't look or feel automated because of the way that it's structured with ProLine.
And we absolutely use that. I think you've seen mine probably. It literally says, "Hey, Mr. Customer, I'd love for you to leave me a review. This really helps me with my year-end performance bonuses, blah blah blah." It don't mean shit for their bonuses, but that makes that customer feel somewhat indebted because that sales rep did them a good job, right? Like obviously they're not going to leave a good review if they didn't do a good job, but our sales reps do a good job, so they're bonused off other things. It's not the 5-star reviews that they get bonused on.
Yeah.
But that customer now feels like, man, he did do me well. He treated me right, took care of my stuff. He did a great cleanup at the end. I owe it to him to take the 2 seconds to leave this review. And sure as shit, they leave them. I think we're running like a 40%, 30 some, 30 some, almost 40% 5-star review rate off of jobs we've closed. So, I mean, that's high. That's really high.
Yep. Yeah. I think from a psychological perspective, people don't leave businesses reviews unless they've had a bad experience. They leave people reviews.
Yep.
So it specifically, if you 5-star reviews, it's always because they were doing it for a person that they have even a very tiny relationship with, but it's for a person. That's how you
Yep.
motivate those. So, but yeah, you don't have it, but you can do that with ProLine without having to have your sales reps manually ask. All right. Yeah, for anyone else that's joined in, please put your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of Zoom. We'd love to answer your questions. We're here to answer any question regarding the roofing business. Um, we got Scott and myself here hitting it from different angles. So let us know if we can answer any questions for you. Otherwise, we're just going through our pre-prepared questions. All right, let's do. All right, here's a good question. So Scott, how important is being face to face with a homeowner when selling them a roof? Or do you think that it's possible for us to for a roof to be sold purely remotely?
There are customers that do buy that. I don't want to say that that doesn't exist. There are customers that they want to schedule their appointment online, and then once they schedule it, they're going to send you a message that says, "Hey, just send me a quote. I'm not able to meet." Um, and then I've literally had jobs that I've never met. Um, we send them a quote, they sign it, we talk on the phone through text or email, pick colors out. We show up to do the job at 7 a.m. They've already left for work. We're done by 4 p.m. They're not home from work. I just email them an invoice. We never see each other. That's okay. But most homeowners, I believe, I know for a fact we sell better if we go meet the person. So when we went, we had a storm 2 years ago, and we were just absolutely overwhelmed with leads. I like completely overwhelmed. So we ended up deciding the only way we can keep up with all these leads was to go fully remote. And our close rate went down to like right at 10%. Um, yeah, it was bad. We realized real quick that this is just not the way. We just need to start turning down leads if we can't schedule the appointment. Um, if our calendar's booked for 2 weeks, we just got to tell them like we can't get there for 2 weeks to even look at it. Because when we go to an appointment, we close at almost a 40% close rate. So um, for us, it's an absolute no-brainer. We even now when people ask us to do it remote, we still like to try to even like show up to measure the roof and maybe catch them when they're home to hand them their quote. You know what I mean? Like we still will go out of our way to try to put our face in front of them. Give if they give us 5 minutes to just, you know, uh, give them a little pitch, then that's 5 minutes and increased our chances by a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the psychology of such a big high in the mind of the homeowner, such a high risk purchase. It's just like and the other part is that it's being fulfilled by people, right? So they feel the need to have that human relationship. And I don't care how much I don't care how much technology evolves and how many times, how much stuff we buy off Amazon. I don't see that really ever changing. I think that you're always going to have, and until there's fully autonomous AI, droids out here that can just, talk. And even then, I don't know. Um, People want to have on a purchase this big, that's this sensitive. It's the buying behavior I don't think is ever going to shift. I think if it was going to shift, it would have already shifted because everyone's used to buying on Amazon now. Everyone's used to the pizza tracker and all of these things. If the buying behavior around roofing was going to go that direction, it would have already. Now, homeowners do have a much higher expectation around communication, right? But I think that's a different thing than them, being okay with just buying something, essentially buying a roof online, right? They do expect to be able to go online and get a quote. They expect to be able to get pricing. They expect a very high level of information to be available to them through your website online at the touch of a finger. But at the end of the day, it's like, and Melissa here in the chat saying we learned this as well during the past hurricane season. So many leads lost from doing virtual quotes. At the end of the day, like you just can't beat showing up and being face to face.
It's all the gurus over the last 3 years, or yeah, probably 3 to 5 years, have said that we're going to a new stage of sales where we're going to sell roofs uh, through at like an Amazon type system. And I bought into that for a long time. I thought that that was actually going to happen. But what I truly believe after, I mean, we tested it, like we actually tested it. What I truly believe is that the ticket is too high and the risk is too high. So if you go buy a car off of, what is it, Carvana or whatever those ones, the online car, you can buy them off eBay, whatever, you go buy a car. Those are high ticket items, but there's not a ton of risk. Like it's a huge corporation that owns the car that's selling it to you with an insurance policy that is going to meet these certain specifications when you receive it. There's very little risk in that purchase, probably almost no risk because how many of you guys know what you're actually looking at when you go to the car dealership? You probably don't know what the hell you're looking at there either. So
Yeah.
there's probably no additional risk. But the risk in hiring a contractor offline versus meeting a contractor is there's no judgment of character that takes place. So when I show up as a sales rep to my project to sell a job, AJ knows he gets to spend some time with me and judge my character if he's going to trust to move forward in the process with me. You don't get that online. So that's to me, that's where I think it's at. Also, all these guys taking these huge deposits. I mean, who wants to give somebody 50% of a project, never met them, they've never been to your house, and you're just going to send them a check for what? Like, at least when you're buying that car online, you've got some guarantee you're getting that car in transition with this payment. Like it's kind of swaps hands together. It's just not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, you know, I'm CEO of a technology company. We embrace technology, we embrace AI. Like these are all things that we are finding ways to build into our system. However, our philosophy has been and continues to be how can we support the human sales reps that are out there and make them each individually more efficient, better at closing, more, better at getting reviews, and like help them to do a better job more easily, and they're, therefore be more productive each one individually, um, by like layering in these automations that are supporting them and AI that's supporting them. That's the way we're approaching all of it. Not replacing people, but making each individual person even more effective at their job by supporting them. That's how we're approaching it. And we'll continue to have that philosophy long term. Um, Great question here from Mike. Scott, how long have you used ProLine? And besides the Google reviews, review feature, what features do you think set it apart from other CRMs you have used in the past?
That's a good question. So I don't know how long I've been through.
It's been well, I mean, the original version, I mean, you were one of our, it's probably
Well,
been 3 years.
yeah, I was one of the early users of when ProLine was actually a tool and it wasn't a CRM yet. And then
Yeah.
I left for just a minute and then I came right back. I'm like, man, my world was better with ProLine. So I came back.
You want to tell
um,
that story?
yeah, we can tell. Yeah. So, yeah, God, I actually kind of hate telling the story because I lost so much money in this process. I
Ah,
was trying to
yeah.
change, but yeah. So I had ProLine. AJ and John tell me that they're gonna build it into a CRM, and I told them they were freaking crazy, and I didn't want no part in it, and I would just go build my own CRM inside of HubSpot with you know the big guys in HubSpot, and they've got their place in the world. I'm not saying they don't. They got their place in the world. But I signed a contract, already spent 10 grand with HubSpot, and was getting ready that day. I had a meeting at 9 o'clock. I was sitting in the Dallas airport trying to fly home, frozen Dallas. And I had a 9 o'clock with RBP to look at HubSpot and finalize the details. The contract was, I think it was like $120,000 to build out the CRM that I wanted. And then the ongoing monthly fees were going to be like between 3 and 5 grand a month for all the supporting features and different things. And I was ready to sign the contract. And I had a meeting with John Delorier, the co-founder of ProLine, in a mastermind call just short, like an hour later. And he showed me his ProLine. And mind you, they'd only had the CRM going for a couple months at this time. And I'm like,
This
holy
was
shit.
early 2024.
Yeah, earlier,
It was
like
like
January.
January. So yeah,
Yeah.
this was only about a year ago, I think.
The CR, yes, when I
Yeah.
bought the CRM, yes, it was only about a year.
Yeah.
Yes, but I was a customer for quite a while before that using
Of
the
the
tool.
tool. Yeah.
So regardless, I end up checking out John's account, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like 90% of what I'm trying to do in HubSpot. I mean, there's a few things missing, but it was not much. And in that short amount of time, I'm like, well, they can get that other 10% in no time if they already got this part done. So I had to cancel with RBP. I hadn't signed a contract, luckily, but I did sign a $10,000 contract with HubSpot. So I ate that. I had to eat 10 grand And I went right back to ProLine and literally set it up in 2 weeks. Done. And my business has freaking thrived out of it since. So yeah. And not only has it thrived out of it, I've gotten so good and so in tune with the software that I literally just build them for other customers at ProLine on the side just for something to do. So I love it. I think it's easy. I think it's great. To answer the question though, I answered half that question. The other features that are my favorite. So there's two things that I've kind of hit on that are like really, really uh, make it stand on its own, and that's the support. I know that's not a feature, and the development. So I know those aren't features, but the speed at which we get new features to me is an absolute home run. And then the support is literally second to none. So, I mean, you send them a text, you get an answer right now. And I don't get that just because I know AJ. I'm texting a support chat. Like this doesn't, I'm just in the mix with everybody. But I think, honestly, one of my favorite features that I don't think gets talked about hardly at all is the web form with the booking link. Basically, if everybody's familiar with Calendly, it's not exactly the same, but it's very, very close. So like you can go to my website and with a few clicks, you can book an appointment for an inspection. And the way that we've got it set up, depending on your location or whatever, it will book you on our calendar with with the right sales rep. It recognizes the calendar that is already there. So if there's already appointments booked for that day and you've got parameters set, then it only gives them options for the next day. So I think that might be one of my favorite features because we book a ton of appointments online and it's just so easy. They don't even have to pick the phone up and call. They just click like three buttons and they have an appointment with the right sales rep that works. So I think that one might be one of my favorites. It's a small feature, but it's just such a slick working design that I love
Yeah, the goal with that was, and this is with a lot of the features we build, is like, how can we just make it even easier and make ProLine, make it possible to just run, everything out of ProLine. And Calendly was one of those features or one of those other platforms. It's like they're not built for roofers. When I've seen Calendly set up for a roofing company, they were always using a very small percentage of the features in Calendly because most of Calendly is built more for companies like ProLine, where we're a software company. We need all kinds of like crazy stuff and integrations with Zoom and stuff. And we use Calendly for ourselves, but for a roofing contractor, you're only using a very small piece of Calendly, and it's a super big pain to try to integrate it with a CRM. And so that was the idea there is like, okay, can we just build something that meets that little piece of Calendly that people are using, and then eliminates the need to set up that integration, and that's what we put together. So.
it. Yep, I love it.
I'll add one thing to that. I know you're not asking me, Mike, but my favorite feature will always be the sales follow-up because the sales follow-up is what immediately drives like the sales follow-up automation, similar to the automation with the review generation. It's coming from the assigned sales rep. It doesn't look or feel automated. It looks like it was these messages, and especially if you make some changes to them, customize them to your company, they look like the sales reps just really on their game, and you can automate sales follow up across your entire team, and you never have to worry about your sales reps dropping the ball on sales follow up ever again. And they have access and control over it for their customers, so they get to also put it on pause, reschedule it, rewrite stuff for themselves, and so it's not going behind their back. It's really built to help them close more deals, and it does. And so that's why our tagline is, we're the CRM that helps you close more jobs, and sell more jobs. Like ProLine will help you sell more jobs because of how those automations are set up. So, all right, we've gone down the ProLine rabbit hole again. We got to get back to roofing business in general here. So, all right. Uh, Thanks for the question, Mike. Please, guys, if you have any other questions, we'd love to address your questions. So, yes, sir. So I'm gonna go back to our list while we're waiting for any new questions. We already did the face-to-face. We talked about generating reviews. All right. How about this? What are some tips to differentiate our brand if I have a lot of local competitors and other roofing companies in my market? What's some tips to differentiate my brand in the market?
Oh boy. Don't God, I want to offend probably well we got how many we got here? At least half of these guys. But hey, I needed to hear it too. So if you're let me see. All right. So if your logo is some sort of triangle, like a roof, and it is red or blue, and that's the logo, so is your competitors. They all look like that. Like I actually get a kick out of we're driving around the country, that motorhome screwing off all the time. It doesn't matter what town you drive through. Obviously, I've got an eye for it. I'm looking for it. Every town I go through, I will find multiple vehicles that literally I couldn't tell you the difference. They just have triangles on them and they say their name or last name or something like that. And even if it's not that, it's like uh, home something roofing or home this roofing or Houston roofing or you know what I mean? Like very generic names. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just think you can build a brand around that. So even if your name is Houston Roofing, figure out something really cool. Dimitri actually did one that was Seattle Roofing, that he's pretty proud of. And it does, it looks cool. You know what I mean? Like it, even though it's just named after the town Seattle, and they live in Seattle, which is a pretty generic ass name in my opinion. The brand is cool. Like the brand stands out. They've got some really good artwork. Their truck wraps are really nice. Their logo looks really cool. Um, you just got to get creative. You know, that's what I would recommend. Find one piece of advice I got from somebody was look at all your competitors, write down their colors, their company colors, and most of them is going to be red or blue, red, white, and blue. That's like that's going to be the colors of 90% of your competitors. But look at the rest of them. Get all the colors that they are, and then find what they're not, and that's what you make your company color. So like there was no one in any of my markets that orange was their primary color. So what did we do? We went all out on orange. So everything I got is bright freaking orange with this little blue raindrop mascot. And I mean, I can clearly tell we get noticed because of it. So yeah, I would that's how I would try to start with your colors. It's easy to make that switch. It's an easy thing. Even if you keep the logo the same, the name the same, just change the color. You know, you could do that if you really want to try to start standing out a little bit.
Yep. Yep, totally agree with all that. Melissa says I fought with my husband on this. We went back and forth. No roof in the logo. Nice. Jennifer says everyone loves our raindrop. Oh, that's Jennifer that works with you, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I have to assume. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, Melissa, did you end up winning? You won that? No roof in the logo? It sounds like she won that.
Great.
Nice.
This Gracie said that hers is purple and yellow. I actually looked at purple really hard. And there's actually a company. I'm trying to think where it's at. It's a roofing company, and they use purple and yellow or purple and green. I can't remember what it is. Man, it's like it's sweet. I actually love it, but I ended up I went. I didn't go that route.
Yep. That's good stuff. Branding is tough. Like branding and like getting it right. It's so hard to change too once you go down one path.
Yeah.
So, um, all right, cool. All right. Let us know if you guys have any other questions. We'd love to answer your questions. Let me pull out another one of ours here. Branding. All right. So after the job is complete, what kind of materials should I provide to the client post job for them to hold on to track things like warranties, maintenance, stuff like that?
So whenever a job's complete, we always leave the customer a few things. We leave them with an open bundle of shingles, an open bundle of ridge cap, so they keep that up. If they don't want it, we'll pitch it, but we'll put it up overhead of their garage or whatever form. That way, for some reason, people just feel like they want that. Nobody ever uses, it, but they're there. Usually, you use it just in case you have a blow off. You at least have the color. You never forget the color because it's on the package in there, right? So, but then we build a folder with warranty information. So you've got, for us, you got your GAF Gold Pledge warranty, the actual document that we've got. Um, that has everything in it. If you opt for that warranty, it has the color, the number of square, it has all those details. So um, that's pretty much all we typically leave, and then we leave an invoice that has a paid stamp marked on it because we actually don't. We collect payment at the completion of jobs. We take zero deposits, and at that point, we collect the check. We hand them the warranty after the check is. We don't give you a warranty until you pay your bill, but you get a paid stamped invoice at that time.
Nice. Jack has a follow-up question here. Do you register all the warranties for the customer? The paperwork is a headache.
Jennifer, that's listening to this, does all of them, and it doesn't take her very long. I don't know what Jack. I don't know who you're using, what supplier you're using, but for us with GAF, it literally. I mean, I've done them. I don't do them now. Jennifer does take all that on, but I bet she has. Yeah, she just said super easy. I bet she has less than like 3 minutes to go on. It doesn't take very long.
All right. Next question here. What are some tips for quality control on job sites?
I think the biggest thing for us, there's two major things. Is training. We're all a lot. As a I think how to say this. I guess as an industry, we're leaning into the subcontractor model, and just because I actually had a call. I was on the phone today with another contractor, and he's like, "Man, my guys are just fucking shit up all the time. They're breaking stuff. They broke a pool pump last week, $1,500 pool pump, blah blah blah."
Hmm.
Well, to me, there's two problems. One, you didn't train them well enough because you have to train your subs. They have to know the expectations of your job site. And then two, you got to hold them responsible. I mean, they are subs. That is kind of the beauty. Like you break something, you buy it. That's how this works. Um, now I need to now that you've bought it, now I need to train you to not do that again because you're making big headaches for me. Um, but it's that, and then we utilize CompanyCam huge. Like everything is documented. We've got a list, and that's part of our training. These guys know how to manage shoes. You got to train them on your process. So we train them on what phases of the job we want photos and what photos we want taken. So for us, a typical job in CompanyCam may have 300 photos. Um, say 50 to 60 pre-job, for the inspection, and then probably about an equal amount post job, and the rest of them are in progress. So we've got like 4 or 5 different steps along the way that we want to see photos of the installation, and like we want to see every face of the roof during every phase of this. So if that roof's got 12 facets, we need at least 12 photos of each step of the way. So usually it's more photos than that, but regardless, that's kind of the basic of how we do it. And yeah, we have very little issue with quality control because of it.
Nice. All right. Got time for a couple more questions here. You guys got any other questions for us? Please put those in the Q&A. All right. Let me see. Let me find a good one here. What's the difference between markup and margin?
Um, I don't know what the actual number is. There's a number that's the difference, but it's the difference is I actually the funny part is I had this wrong for so long. Like I hate to even admit
A lot of
that,
people do. Yeah.
but I didn't know. No one never taught me that there was a difference. And people were talking about margin and markup. I don't know, just take job times 1.45 and that gives you you know what I mean? There's a difference. So
Yeah.
margin is if you uh, charge $10,000 and you make $3,000, you had a 30% margin. Okay. Markup is if you charge $10,000, if the job costs you $10,000 and you need to mark it up 30%, now you're charging $13,000. It does not, the profit does not equal the same. I think,
Right.
AJ, am I right in saying 40, is it
Well,
40% margin equals like 54% markup?
that's a good comparison there because in those two scenarios, so in one, you're charging $10,000 and you're getting a $3,000 profit. And in the other, you're charging $13,000 and you're getting a $3,000 profit. So in both cases, you're getting a $3,000 profit, but the percentage of that 13,000 is lower. So your
Yeah.
actual profit margin on that second job there for 13,000 is less than 30%. And this is what trips a lot of people up because people are like, well, what should my margin be on roofs that I sell? And everyone's, hey, it needs to be 30%, right? But if you add 30% markup, then because so let's do it the other way. You got the $10,000 job and $3,000 of it is profit. So $7,000 is cost, right? If you
Yeah.
take that same $7,000 and you multiply that by 30%, um, that 30
Times by
uh
1.3.
so that's $2,100. So if you are thinking, "Oh, I want 30% profit," but then you just multiply it by 1.3, then you're only actually getting $2,100. That's a lot less profit than 3,000. And 3,000 is the correct if you want 30% profit on the overall job. The difference is in the order that this is calculated. So for markup, you're taking your cost and you're marking it up and saying, I want 30% of my cost, and that's what my profit's going to be. But your profit margin is saying of the total that is the job. So if the total job is $10,000, margin is saying I want X percentage of that 10,000 to be profit. And so 30% of 10,000 is a lot more than 30% of 7,000. And this
Yes.
is where a lot of companies run into problems is they'll do markup and then wonder why their overall net profit at the end of the year is near zero. It's because they weren't charging enough, and they were like taking advice online and that was saying 30% is needs to be your margin, but then using it as a markup, which is actually, much less. So the key here is to be using software, or systems that correctly calculate it. So in ProLine, um, and the thing is, there is definitely softwares out there that don't do it right. This was something that we did very intentionally, but there's absolutely some softwares out there that will incorrectly label things as margin when they're actually markup. Um, but if you run your quotes through ProLine, we're going to do it properly, where we're going to say, if you tell us you want a 30% margin, then we're going to sell the job, we're going to price the total job out for you for 10K if your cost is 7, to make sure that there is 30% margin there. So that's the key with that is to make sure that the tools you're using. So if you're on ProLine, you don't have to worry about it. If you're not using ProLine, especially if you're using, something like Excel or Google Sheets or something to calculate out your jobs. That's super critical, is to make sure that you're correctly calculating margin rather than markup. The way that you do it is you would so if you wanted to do margin on that 7K, the way that you would do it, I'm just going to make sure this is correct. I believe you would divide by zero point 0.7. Yeah, you would divide by zero point 0.7. So you would divide that 7,000 in cost by essentially one minus what you want your margin to be. So if your margin is the 30%, it's one minus 30%, which is going to give you 70%. And so you're dividing that 7,000 by the 70%, and that's going to give you the 10,000. So if you have that calculation right, then you'll get it right. But this is also something, if you're on another platform that's not ProLine, it's something to maybe ask their support and get some clarification on, and make sure that they are properly calculating margin and not markup. Anything else to put on top there, Scott?
No, I lost a lot of money because I didn't know that for a long time. So don't feel down if you screwed that up because
It's
most people don't know.
I mean, I messed it up when we were building like the beta for quoting for ProLine back in the day. This was maybe a couple of years ago. Now I I showed it to John, and I was like, and I was doing markup calculations, and he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna put people out of business. Like this has to be markups." And I was like, "Oh." So like, yeah, don't feel dumb for sure. It gets confusing. But the key is to make sure that, as long as you have it right at the end of the day, that's what matters. So,
Straight.
and what a better time to make that change and make sure your business is squared away than January, so you can go through this year properly pricing and taking profit.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. So we'll wrap things up there. Thanks everybody for joining in. Really appreciate all the questions, and really good crowd today. And we'll see everybody same time next week.
Yep. See you guys.